The Oracle Network. Look deeper.
Hey, this is Mike. This is a little bonus thing for all of our listeners. Way back in July of 2020, we released a bonus Half Pint of Crimes to just our Patreon supporters. And it was because me and Nina accidentally wrote the exact same story for our Anniversary Crime episode. So we decided just to finish out 2020, start 2021, we would release this episode to everyone. This episode is me and Emma from True Crime Witch. She was my co-host just because she didn't know the story. And we'll get to that when I start the episode. We kind of explain that too. Before we start this, I'm just going to ask for a little help. Next time you open your podcast app, drop us a 5-star review. iTunes and Apple Podcasts especially recommend shows more to users when they get new positive reviews, and with your help, Brew Crime can spread to even more listeners. Regardless of your app though, please rate and review and share our podcast with your friends, as the more people that hear our show, the more the show can grow. Here are a few reviews that have been left for us. Alright, so our first review I'm going to read out here is from the United States. Comes from Larry Lease. This show is everything you want in a true crime podcast. Listening to the first episode and already hooked. And that's a 5-star review. Then we've got one from the United Kingdom. From 2019-2018. I might have missed a raw there, I'm not sure. 5 stars. Really enjoying the production on this podcast. This is a new one for me, but will be catching up on my maternity leave. Yay. We got one from Ireland. 5 stars from Charita1. I think that's how you pronounce it. Beck, Nina, and Mike pair up beer with some horrific true crime. I love the chemistry. Highly recommended. And we'll finish it out with one from Canada. It's a 5-star from, looks like Becky1020. Love the beer crime combo, and this makes me want to try more kinds of beer, even though I'm pretty committed to IPAs. I always love more Canadian content, like the relaxed feel of the podcast, and the host's chemistry. Episode 3 has the best new catchphrase ever. There's a snake in my scripture. It made me laugh out loud on public transit. Thanks for that. So if you leave us a review, we'll shout it out on the show too. Now I'll let you go to the episode. Cheers. Welcome to Brew Crime. I'm Mike, and I've got a special guest with me today.
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm the host of the True Crime Witch podcast. I am a bi-weekly podcast, and I take you into everything murderous, mysterious, and downright macabre. So thank you, Mike, for having me.
My pleasure. This is happening because for our Anniversary Crimes episode, Nina and I accidentally wrote the same story, and the scripts were very different, and spent a lot of time writing it, so I thought I'd find a way to still use the script, and why not bring a different host on instead of trying to have the two people that already heard the story react. So, I thought it made a little more sense.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, do you know anything about the Melgar family murders?
I do not.
Perfect.
I do not.
All right. Let's get going then. Anniversaries can be happy and some can be horrible. This one is the latter for sure. Our victim, Jim Melgar, was born in Guatemala and lived there up until he was 3 years old. At this point, his family decided to immigrate to the United States to make a change in their lives. They would end up moving to Houston, Texas. Sandy McCulloch also lived in the same area growing up. The two would become fast friends and then be high school sweethearts. Their relationship would blossom, and a few years after graduation, the two would tie the knot on December 22nd, 1982. Or somewhere near there. It was kind of nebulous on what the actual date was.
Okay.
She would become Sandy Melgar after the wedding. The two would be successful at beginning careers, with Jim becoming an IT specialist and Sandy becoming a nurse. They would then have a daughter, Elizabeth, known as Liz. And actually, there was a couple different nicknames I noticed, but Liz seemed to be one that was used the most often.
I think that I've heard Lib used as a nickname for Elizabeth as well.
Okay. If you notice that I have not been giving dates for the birth dates, it's because I couldn't find any info on that, which is kind of sad. The family was quite religious, and they would end up joining the Jehovah's Witness Church. They were known to be a happy and close family. Sandy was known to deal with a handful of medical issues, including lupus, epilepsy, and hyperthyroidism. She would even have to go in for multiple hip replacement surgeries, which sounds awful, because she was fairly young.
I was going to say that's like quite a condition associated with older people, not necessarily someone who's, just having a baby and being a nurse and stuff like that. So that's horrible.
Yeah. She spent some time in a wheelchair because of her health, but it seems like she was back up and walking with her hip replacements. Sounds like she was using a cane, though. It is noted many places that she was always afraid of seizures, so she didn't like to drive and would depend on Jim to get her around. December 22nd, 2012 was going to be a wonderful day, as it was Jim and Sandy's 32nd wedding anniversary. Their plan for the night was to go out for a nice dinner at their favorite restaurant that just happened to be a Mexican spot. On their way home, they hit up a store to get some mix for their night's drinks. Doesn't sound like Jehovah's Witnesses drink all that much from my understanding, but they did.
No, I know someone who was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. I'm not going to say who, because the Jehovah's Witnesses are known to be crazy, but I do know someone. I'm just going to leave it at that, because they're fucking insane. But I don't think they drink, but then again, you get a lot of other religions who are like, their religion's against drinking, but they do it anyway, so...
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, I haven't seen it personally, but I've heard of people going to the Middle East and drinking with a bunch of Muslim people, and most Muslims don't drink too, right? So it happens.
I think it all depends on how seriously someone takes their religion. I guess it's one of those things, isn't it? It's if you do, you do. You don't, you don't.
I take my serious religion of drinking very seriously. So they now spent some time getting their drinks ready and headed up to the bathroom to fill their jacuzzi tub for a nice romantic time. This went on for a few hours and was probably a really nice time, as you can only guess. I'd hope. I don't know.
I hope that jacuzzi was clean.
Yeah, no doubt.
They are hotbeds for infections and grossness, so please don't ever do it in a jacuzzi.
Well, at least it sounds like it was like a juicy jacuzzi tub, like in their bathrooms, so a little better.
Oh, okay. That makes me feel a little bit better, but they just they freak me out. I just think of all the...
Yeah, it's not like some random hot tub or something out in a deck that may not be treated well.
No. Just random things floating about in there that I will not speak of, but yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Something was happening outside their home, though, as their 4 dogs started making a racket, and Jim would get up to go check what the heck was going on down there. So this quote comes from Sandy. He just was taking a while, so I got out and was going to get dressed, or change in my closet. I went in there and I started to change, and that's all I remember until I woke up, Sandy Melgar told the detectives. Unfortunately, this evening did not end well. The story that Sandy tells is as follows. She claims that when Jim went to check downstairs, home invaders must have barged in. She claimed that she never actually heard or saw the attack on her husband, and claims that she must have blacked out for being hit over the head, or she might have just had a seizure. It's a lot of wiggle room. Yeah.
Is there any physical evidence of her being hit over the head, or is that to come later?
Not really.
No evidence of a seizure? No brain activity scans that were...
I didn't read that, but then she did have epilepsy, so there is a possibility.
Yeah, there is that possibility,
Yeah.
But it just seems like if there's no evidence of you being hit on the head...
And then if you have a seizure and you fall, you could hit your head. So, I mean, there's conjecture there too, right?
Yeah, also that.
She was tied up, though, still in her closet, and there was a chair in front of her closet door. Jim, on the other hand, was in a different closet, only 30 feet away. He had no clothes on, and he was stabbed to death. His legs were tied up, and there was a rope around his chest. He had been brutally murdered with 50 distinct wounds, including stab, cut, and blunt force wounds. So,
Jeez.
Pretty vicious.
Right. Yeah, that's it's a bit personal. It's a bit on the nose, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's another quote. He's got a lot of defensive wounds on both hands, which means he was trying to either disarm the attacker or block the assault, said Celestina Rossi, a blood pattern and crime reconstruction expert who testified for the prosecution. The same expert thought that the assailant would have been locked in hand-to-hand combat during the attack. Most of the attack wounds would be to his face and head. The room had been tossed a bit, with everything rifled through, and her purse was overturned on the bed. The police did find a bloody white shirt and a kitchen knife inside the jacuzzi tub the couple had spent their romantic time in. Jim obviously didn't think too much of the dogs barking, as they had a loaded gun still in the locked safe. So, I mean, if he really thought there was an issue, and this is the United States, he would have grabbed, it's Texas, he would have grabbed his gun, right?
Oh god, yeah, it's Texas. I'm pretty sure he would have pulled a gun out of his sock or something and be like, pew, 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 pew. This Texas. This is what I'm led to believe about the US. I don't know, I've never seen a gun apart from it at uni, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, no, there's lots and lots and lots of guns in the States. When I was in Arizona, I saw assault rifles just out and about.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
Like, the most I've seen someone carry is a knife, and I'm just like, why? Or a machete, actually. I've seen someone with a machete, and I'm like, why do you need a machete?
I always carry this.
That would get me possibly a prison sentence. That is a concealed weapon. I'm not allowed. You know those self-defense key rings that you have? Can't have those. I don't have pepper spray because that's illegal.
Yeah, you can only have bear spray here, basically. And when you buy it, you have to give your ID number, and they tie the serial number of the pepper spray to your ID. So if you actually use it on a human, you get a lot of shit.
I mean, that makes sense. I've got something called self-defense spray, which makes like a red mark on someone for like a week. But in terms of self-defense, there isn't really much I can do.
Now, of course, with Sandy tied up in the closet, she could not get to a phone. Luckily for her, the family had planned to get together at their home the next day. At 4:30 p.m., her brother Herman and his family arrived at the home. They would knock, and there was no answer. But weirdly, the garage door was open, so we went in and opened the front door for the rest of his family. They would call for Sandy and Jim, but there would be no answer. This is a quote. "I was telling my dad, I remember clearly telling him, this doesn't feel right," said Herman Melgar's daughter, Marissa. Only now did Herman hear Sandy calling for help. They would find Sandy lying on the floor, tied up, as I mentioned before. Herman tried and failed to untie her, so he found scissors and cut her loose. Unfortunately for Sandy, the cops didn't buy her story from the start. They thought it was fishy that she could have no idea that her husband was murdered in the next room. There's another quote here. "I know how it looks. I was also tied up," she said in the police interview. The police were already looking at her for the murder, but the family didn't buy it. I mean, they had been happily married for 32 years after all. She would not be arrested right away, but a year and a half later, she would be arrested. She'd be put on trial for the murder, though, and her lawyer was quoted as saying, "This idea that something must have happened and that she went crazy and subjected him to over 50 blunt force and sharp force injuries is just impossible." Like, why is it impossible? Maybe improbable, but why is it impossible?
Nothing is ever impossible. Improbable, but never impossible.
Exactly.
Did she have any wounds on her hands? Because if she was using a knife, what happens when you use a knife?
No, she didn't actually, yeah.
That when you stab, the blood gets onto your hands and it's like a lubricant, so it slips. So you'll often see people with, depending on which hand is dominant, they'll have cuts on the palms or on the fingers from where the hand just slips down. That's a sure tell sign.
All right, still a quote here. "I found out there was a warrant out for her arrest," Elizabeth said. "We called the lawyer and we had her turn herself in." All right, so this is no longer a quote. Moving to 2017, and her trial would finally begin. The prosecutor in the case, Colleen Barnett, would make the argument that Sandy Melgar was wanting a divorce, but the Jehovah's Witness Church does not allow for this to happen. Of course, Sandy's lawyer would argue the opposite way, that they were happily married still after 32 years. The prosecutor would also claim that the whole room was staged as a home invasion, as it was just too perfect. The prosecutor also claimed that there was nothing taken from the home, but the defense did not agree and would claim that a bunch of things of value were stolen. The police had made a video proving how Sandy could have used a pillowcase or rug to slide the chair into place that blocked the door of the closet that she was found in. So she could have actually just, pulled that chair in so it looked like she was locked in there.
That's a bit much for someone who has quite a few medical conditions, uses a cane, has had hip replacements, has lupus, which is an autoimmune disorder, right?
Yeah.
and has some other stuff that possibly would have restricted her mobility. It just seems a bit... okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
Next, the prosecutor showed how she could have tied her own hands behind her back. She actually literally performed it on video, showing how she could tie behind her back.
I mean, yeah, it's probable people do it all the time for whatever reason. So yeah, it's possible.
Sandy's doctor also said that she had not reported any seizures to her doctor in many years. This definitely does not mean that she could not have had the seizure that night or of the anniversary, but they are trying to build a case against her. Sandy's lawyer would point out that there was no sign of Sandy cleaning up the house, and she had no injuries on her hands, and her fingernails were not chipped or broken. Now, when Nina told the story, she had read somewhere that there was signs of cleaning, but I went through all my sources again, and it said there was absolutely no sign of cleaning. The knife and the shirt were still in that tub. The one thing they did say is that one of her fingernails had kind of a stain that would be from like cleaning stuff. So maybe she used a ton of cleaning stuff on her hands to try to hide the fact. That could be it.
Yeah, maybe. But then I don't know. I feel like it would be more all over your hands rather than just one. It feels like it's just generic.
Yeah.
And with the seizures thing, if they didn't usually drink, but she had a drink on her anniversary, could it be possible that had something to do with her possibly having a seizure? I don't know about medication and stuff, but that could possibly be a trigger. I don't know.
A lot of epileptics don't drink for that reason, yeah. Mm-hmm. DNA would be found on a door handle and dresser drawer that didn't match any family member. The defense would claim this came from the home invader. The jury would spend 2 days debating the case over a total of 8 hours. The jury started out being split down the middle about her guilt or innocence, but unfortunately for her, they would find her guilty on the second day. Quotes, "You know, I felt like everything just got really quiet," Elizabeth said. "The room was just kind of spinning. Yeah, I still feel sick to my stomach when I think about it, or hear other people talk about it." And then still a quote, "I remember clearly just looking at the jurors, just staring at them, every single one of them, because I wanted to remember their faces and I wanted them to look at us and see the pain they were all causing." With the guilty verdict dropped, the sentence came in soon after. She would be sentenced to 27 years in state prison. There are many people that do not think that Sandy committed the murder, and they are trying to prove her innocence. She is appealing her conviction, and I have found in one article, high-profile defense attorney Kathleen Zellner, who represented Stephen Avery, the subject of popular Netflix series Making a Murderer, among other well-known clients, has recently announced she will represent Sandy Melgar. So what do you think? I
want to see that DNA tested. That is the kicker, but then again, how can you prove that DNA came from, specifically from that night, from the said home invader, especially if you have people around to your house all the time?
Yeah.
Jehovah's Witnesses are known for, having lots of people around. They have different, they're not called sermons, but, you get together like quite a few times a week. Elders come around. You might have, not Bible study, but on a Sunday you have like school for the kids. So can you say beyond reasonable doubt that DNA definitely came from the home invader on the night of the home invasion?
Yeah. And I mean, often houses will have multiple bathrooms, and the one like this one was in the master bedroom. If someone needs to use the washroom and that one's full, you might send someone into your bedroom and they might brush up against or touch something on the way around.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem with any certainty that they can definitely say that this DNA definitely. But then again, I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah. I don't know. Everything I was reading about it it sounded plausible that she did it. It just, there was too much conjecture. It sounded too fake. Maybe she'll come out and it turns out she is innocent. I don't know, but.
I don't know. I know that obviously if you get divorced, you would get disfellowshipped from the church. But I don't see that would be a motive to murder someone. I don't know.
Because we're not crazy, but unfortunately that happens all the time, especially with really religious people for some reason. I guess probably because they'd get disowned by their church, but it happens all the time too. So
actually, yeah, going back on what I just said, being disfellowshipped or disowned by a church can actually be quite a big thing. for someone because all of your family have to turn their back on you, all of your friends have to turn their back on you. If you've been married for 32 years and you've only ever exclusively known people who are Jehovah's Witnesses, all of a sudden you have no friends, you have no support network, your own family won't even talk to you. So I guess that could be why. But then again, being found out to be a murderer could be another reason for disfellowship. They might be, yeah, we're crazy, but we're not that crazy, so out you go.
And, you know, they always seemed like a happy family, but that doesn't mean they were, right? There's lots of people that show a nice, happy, you know, outlook on the outside, and as soon as they're in the house, you know, the abuse happens or whatever. I'm not saying he did, because there's nothing says that he ever abused her, but you don't know that.
Where was you said that they had a kid, right?
Yeah, she was out. I think it was because it was their... I meant to actually write that in the story, and I forgot. She was off at a friend's or something because of the anniversary, so that they could have their romantic time together.
So, yeah, no, fair enough then. I was just wondering if she was in the house or what had happened to her, but yeah. I don't know. I think I need something a bit more concrete either way. I don't know.
That's the shitty part about this, is that you don't get that.
No, yeah, like, I'd have to know beyond reasonable doubt, but I know that I can't know beyond reasonable doubt because there just isn't anything, unless new evidence comes to light. I mean, we have seen that in a few cases where things go cold, and then 30 years down the line, it's like, oh, wow, here's this new evidence, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Shrug.
I don't know, but if she is in prison for something she didn't do, then that's very shitty. And then, on the other hand, if she tried to stage a home invasion and murdered her own husband, then that's also shitty. But I feel like stabbing someone that many times is very personal.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It's very personal, but women aren't usually known to do that. Like, women are usually known just to slip something in your drink. That is what we see the majority of female killers doing, or drugging people, so it is unusual to see someone stab someone, but again, never outside of the realm of possibilities in our crazy world, is it?
No, and the world's only getting crazier.
Don't. I've got the rest of my life. I'm just like, please no. Please nothing else. I can't handle anything else.
No shit, yeah. All right, well, that's the end of the story. Thanks for joining. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. You can find us at brewcrime.com. If you want to send us a message, recommend case types or themes or whatever, you can send us an email at brewcrime@pacificbeerchat.com. You can find us on all social media at brewcrime. If you want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/brewcrime. We use the money to pay for hosting and help upgrade our equipment and just make the show better. So shout out to our supporters: True Crime Nana, Daniela, Ange, Nina's Mom, 3 Beers In Podcast, Amber, and the Faves Over Lives Podcast. Cheers and happy holidays.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Brew Crime's intro was created by Mike using Creative Commons Attribution licensed audio from purple-planet.com, soundbible.com, and freesoundeffects.com. Logo design was by Ben Greenberg. All cases and stories were written by Beck, Nina, and Mike, and our sources are put into the show notes for each episode. We always want to give credit to the people that research the cases we talk about. We can also be found on your favorite podcast apps, our hosts, Spreaker.com, or BrewCrime.com, as well as at BrewCrime on Twitter, at BrewCrime on Facebook, at Facebook.com/groups/BrewCrime. Thanks for listening. This has been a production of Pacific Beer Chat.
Hey guys,
I'm Abby.
and I'm Shauna, and we're the host of a podcast called Anxious and Afraid.
Do you love deep dives into true crime,
The paranormal,
strange history?
conspiracies? Well, so do we, and each week we take turns surprising each other with whatever anxiety-inducing subject we are obsessed with that week.
Tune in each week to hear Shauna mispronounce words.
The guys on the lookout apparently asked for binoculars. Did I say that right?
So the photos showed him and his colleague entertaining... Wait, am I saying it wrong? Yes! and listen in as Abby constantly asks too many questions.
I was about to ask you a lot of questions, and I'm glad that you interrupted me. Continue.
I would have told you to shut up.
I don't know.
I don't know
what
Stop
I'm trying
quizzing
to
me.
do.
Okay, you know, I did enough research. Let me just tell the damn story.
Jesus. Continue. Episodes drop every Tuesday, available wherever you get your podcasts, and you can also find us at our website, anxiousandafraid.com.
We're always looking for new friends, so don't forget to rate and subscribe.
Let's get this mic set up better. It's a good thing there's editing.
Yeah, thank God for editing, because otherwise, if I was like a live streamer, no.
Yeah. And then just react or whatever whenever you want to say something.
Okie dokie, will do.
Anniversaries. Blah, I can already speak. Anniversaries. See the magic. I can.
No!
If you notice that I have not given dates yet for birth. Blah. Let me reread this. This is terribly written. Most of the attack wounds would be in fucking. Most of the attack
Come
wounds.
on.
What was that?
You can do it, come on.
No, I can't. One sec. I want to show you something. There you go.
Jesus fucking Christ. Why did you need that?
Backpacking, hiking.
Okay, I'm suspicious.
You got a
We don't hear
bushwhack.
from your wife. We don't hear from your wife for a while. Like, I'm on to you, Mike.
That'll be the episode then.